Palpatine's empire controlled over 1 million worlds. Hutt Space was not one of them. Not because the firepower wasn't there, because the Hutts had spent generations making sure it wasn't worth trying. Jedi had hunted the Sith to near extinction twice. Sith had drained entire planets of life. Neither was enough to actually touch the Hutts. These beings, sitting on their thrones, surrounded by criminals and debtors, hadn't built a weapon, they'd built a web, and it had been running for thousands of years. How does a species with no meaningful force sensitivity, no standing army, and no seat on the Senate survive every war, every regime change, and every galactic reshuffling for millennia? In this video, we're looking at 7 reasons the Hutts were the most enduring power structure in the galaxy, and one of them is buried in their biology, and almost nobody talks about it. We'll get there, but first, the foundation everything else was built on. The Hutts didn't own planets in any legal sense. They owned what happened on those planets. Spice smuggling, weapons trafficking, organized slavery, protection rackets. Every one of these systems across the Outer Rim had a Hutt somewhere in the chain of ownership. According to the Essential Atlas, a Legends reference, Hutt Space dominated the criminal economy of the Outer Rim, with Nal Hutta, seat of the Hutt Grand Council, at its center. Jabba's network on Tatooine touched every meaningful transaction on the surface, and Tatooine was just one node. In Return of the Jedi, Jabba's first grievance against Han Solo is stated plainly: a dumped cargo of spice, abandoned when Imperial inspectors boarded. The debt never disappeared. Han crossed half the galaxy, joined a rebellion, helped blow up the Death Star, and was still on Jabba's books. The Hutts didn't need to chase their debtors, they just needed to wait. The Hutts didn't control trade routes, they were the trade routes. That system outlasted Palpatine, the Rebellion, and the fall of the Empire. Infrastructure explained the money. What came next was considerably more dangerous. Knowing who owes you something means knowing who you can give orders to, who was corrupt, and at what price, they knew. In Legends, Gardulla Basadi the Elder, who owned Shmi Skywalker before Watto, ran the same unadvertised network on Tatooine. The clearest example from canon, Zero Dasilagic Tiore kept a holocron diary with incriminating records on every Hutt clan. Jabba sent Sy Snoodles, Zero's former lover, to retrieve it. The Republic dispatched Obi-Wan Kenobi and Quinlan Vos simultaneously. Sy Snoodles reached Zero first, killed him, and was gone before the Jedi arrived. The Republic came for a fugitive. They found a body. That is what information leverage actually looks like. The most sophisticated intelligence operations in the galaxy were run by agencies with budgets, analysts, and dedicated operatives. The Hutts ran theirs through people who had no idea they were working for them. That network outlived every government that tried to monitor it. That's the operating layer. But the word operating undersells it, because these structures didn't grow over decades. They grew over centuries. A Hutt lives up to 1,000 years, not a biological advantage, a geopolitical one. According to legend sources, Jabba Dasilagic Tiore was 604 years old when he died. A human crime lord has 30, maybe 40 years to build an empire. A Hutt has centuries and forgets nothing. In the Clone Wars film, both the Republic and the Separatists were simultaneously courting Jabba's favor for the same Outer Rim routes his predecessors had controlled for generations. The Republic sent Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano on a military rescue operation to recover Jabba's kidnapped son, not as a favor, as payment. The original creditors, long dead, their descendants, still paying. The Grand Council ran for millennia. In the Star Wars galaxy, that is not a record. That is an anomaly. And what happened when someone decided to kill a Hutt instead of paying him? That question has a specific answer. We'll get there. Centuries of leverage still need an enforcement arm. The Hutts had a very specific answer to that. The Hutts didn't fight wars. They had wars fought. Mercenaries, bounty hunters, armed enforcers, corrupted officials. That was their force projection apparatus. In The Empire Strikes Back, Vader contracts Boba Fett as one of 6 bounty hunters, but Fett was already Jabba's, collecting on an existing debt. Vader simply happened to want the same man. Jabba also kept Gamorrean warriors as close quarters protection and Twi'lek agents as intelligence infrastructure across multiple systems. When a competitor vanished, no Hutt was anywhere nearby, no evidence, no point of retaliation. If this is the kind of deep dive you're here for, hit like and subscribe. Attacking a bounty hunter is not attacking the Hutt. Attacking the Hutt directly means you haven't yet grasped how many doors that opens. The proxy model wasn't invented by the Hutts. Nobody had run it longer. All of that runs through beings most people picture as physically inert. We mentioned at the start, one reason was buried in their biology. Here it is. Hutts are physically dangerous creatures, not on a conventional battlefield, but in close quarters. Beneath the fat lies extraordinary muscle mass, thick, damage-resistant skin, and a tail capable of crushing force. They also carry a pronounced resistance to poison, no trivial trait in an underworld where it is a standard tool. In Return of the Jedi, Jabba physically restrained Leia, a trained fighter less than half his mass, with minimal effort, using the chain as a direct extension of his grip. In Legends, this physical capacity goes back millennia. The Hutts defeated Zim the Despot decisively at the Third Battle of Vontor under the command of Cossack the Hutt. The fat is not a weakness. It's a statement of priorities, a species that decided other people could do the fighting while they did the thinking. My honest take, this is the most consistently underestimated aspect of Hutt power. Not what you expected, or is it? The throne was a choice, not a concession. Everything covered so far is remarkable. What comes next is a different category entirely. Hutts are resistant to mental manipulation through the Force. Jedi mind tricks do not work on them. Multiple legend sources document this as biological. The technique that cleared rooms of stormtroopers and senators simply didn't register on a Hutt. In Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker attempts Force compulsion directly on Jabba, the extended hand, the deliberate voice. Jabba laughs. Not because he doesn't understand, because it simply doesn't work. Luke was captured, sentenced to the Sarlacc pit, and dropped through a trapdoor into the Rancor's den. A Jedi at the height of his ability, a room where that ability meant nothing. The Force, the tool that ended Sith Lords and turned the tide of wars, offered nothing the moment a Hutt sat across the table. That is the galaxy's most consistent advantage, being switched off entirely. Every Jedi-Hutt negotiation on record concluded on Hutt terms, or not at all. Force immunity removed the shortcut. The real question was always the organized option, the full military campaign. That answer was structural. Earlier, we asked what happens when someone kills a Hutt instead of paying him. The answer was always structural. Killing a Hutt doesn't eliminate an individual. It detonates a node in a centuries-old network. Debtors, agents, mercenaries, rival clans all react to a power vacuum simultaneously. Anyone who moved against a Hutt faced a cascade harder to manage than the original problem. The Galactic Empire understood this. Hutt Space retained autonomous status throughout the Imperial era. In the Clone Wars, the Hutt Grand Council negotiated with the Republic on equal footing, not as criminals asking for leniency, but as a political power setting conditions. The Hutts needed no army. They only needed everyone to know exactly what an army against them would cost. In Legends, when the Yuuzhan Vong invaded, the New Republic mobilized its fleets. The Hutts, through Borga the Hutt, negotiated a non-aggression pact instead. It held long enough to matter. What made the Hutts so enduringly powerful wasn't any single trait. It was system design. They didn't build empires you could topple. They built networks you couldn't strike without cutting yourself. Debts instead of contracts, proxies instead of soldiers, information instead of confrontation, and biology that made the galaxy's most powerful shortcut irrelevant. Medieval dynasties like the Fuggers controlled Europe through credit lines and information networks, not armies. The Hutts are the galactic equivalent. More spice, considerably less bookkeeping. My verdict? The Hutts are the most sophisticated power structure in Star Wars. No heroes required. No standard definition of villainy applies. Systems engineers, millennia-old ones. And the only thing that ended Jabba wasn't an assault from outside, a revolt from within, by a slave nobody had accounted for.